Okay, so
What's going
Rick,
on, man?
What's going on,
Dude,
guys?
these guys have energy, man. Because it's
Yo.
like, so I talked to you guys earlier in the week, right? With Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's going on, man? Like, I like enthusiastic people. What's going on?
Okay, so I mean, earlier in the week with the code enforcement, that went decent. We didn't get what we wanted, but we also found out there's a 50 worst properties list, so we got that. But anyways, the reason I wanted to join, actually,
Wait, one more thing. This is a good tip for you guys and your followers. One thing that we did when we're driving for dollars, anytime we see the city water company roaming around or code enforcement, we stopped them and asked them, where do we get this list? And they pointed us in the right direction.
See, dude, that tip right there is worth the entire lie.
Yep.
And I'm gonna give you another tip. I went a step further when I was starting out. I used to harass the postman. And like, here's the deal, though. It worked really well for about 6 months, and then I got my butt chewed out. I got a stern notice from the U.S. Postmaster. Said it's a crime to interfere. Do you know, like you got to understand, when it comes to the federal government, like when you put a mailbox out in front of a house, once you put it in, the United States Post Office owns it. You don't. You're not allowed to legally even stick your hand in there. All I did is I did it like you, and I love the aggressiveness, not the just smarts of it. I said, listen, if you ever get like a notice of like a foreclosure, one of those red notices, I go, if you could just like give me a little nod or a wink, or like when you come by, maybe give me a list or something. And he's like, yeah. I think I got the guy fired though. So I'm just telling you, like, be careful. Like, just don't get people in trouble. These people, but I love it, man. But those are the federal government. I think it's a little more liberal with like utility companies, but it's I got big. And then I found a friend down in Palm Beach that was a postal carrier delivery, and he did investing, and we did some deals together. Nice. And he came out with a course on how to connect with your mailman, and boy, that got shut down. Like,
whoa, dang.
And so he goes, hey, here's what you ask him, here's what you do, and here's how you compensate him. It's completely illegal. I assumed it was, but I didn't put out a course for it. So don't listen.
Everything's legal until somebody complains.
Because the gurus are going to get a hold of you and go, listen, I can make millions of dollars. We'll sell that course. And like, when you do it, everybody gets it. A bunch of people get fired, and then you're going to get all these notices about what you're doing is illegal. So anyways, that was a great tip. I didn't even really think about that.
Yeah. They've all been super friendly. They either tell us go to the city hall, or they pointed us where to go exactly.
Yeah. So guys, all you have to do is repeat exactly what you did again.
Yeah. When you're driving around the neighborhoods for dollars and you come across code enforcement or the water sewer, just stop and ask them, where can we get this list? And they'll usually point you in the right direction, or they'll just tell you go to City Hall or the water sewer.
Yeah, so that's like a $997 course right there. A guru would sell that. I'm telling you. Like, listen, I don't know all the gurus. I know most of the gurus. The gurus are good people, but the problem is they're being coached by people to tell them you can sell anything. And you guys got to start going, like, calling people to the plate on like this. Do you know there's an entire course, and I'm not going to put the dollar amount or tell you where it is, on driving for dollars, and it ain't cheap. And I'm like, I give you an 8-minute video on freewholesaling.com. It show you exactly what to do. It's like so simple, but people pay for this course all the time. I think it's around $3,000 to $5,000. Can you imagine? Get in your car, put the key in the ignition, turn it, put it in drive, and look for crappy houses.
You want to go get it.
It's ridiculous, man. Anyway,
basically, we're following you guys and doing what you guys say. And basically, what we tell our friends and followers is that you want information, follow Rick and Zach. If you want to see someone putting it into action, then you follow us. Our style is more of a vlog, of us on the road driving for dollars, or adventures of driving for dollars.
Okay. Well, but the reality is you just got to go out there and do the work, Lo. And it's not always fun. And like, just to let you know, like in our business, we do it. It's not sexy. It's not super fun, but I got to tell you, they were some of the best. They are the best leads we have, because most of the times you got to go to a list, you get a list of 5 or 10,000 people. Then you either got to cold call them, you got to skip trace them, and then you got to find out if there's any motivation. And then sometimes if you just find a crappy house, you go, you just got it. Like, nobody just leaves a house sitting like this. You got to go through a lot of drama in the story, but like, you cut a lot of time on the list. So if I have a list of 10,000 and you got a list of like 200 of like, you saw like ugly houses, you're definitely going to get to them faster than I ever am, because I got to sort through the entire list. I have to pay a staff, and we have to go through all that MCTP with 10,000 people. 200, you can dial it down real quick, right? And that's the name of the game. I can't tell you how many times I remember we used to buy a probate. I'm like, I remember we used to go to the house, look at it, especially when I was training all my acquisitions people. And at the end, when I trained Zach, and I go, look at this house. And you know what my employee said? He goes, I've driven by this house 10 times. I always thought about it. I just assumed I didn't do it. And that's the problem with driving for dollars. Just call. Like I still do it. I go down and visit family in like Broward and Dade County, extreme South Florida. And I have this terrible habit of just taking pictures of everything. And I use I use the Deal Machine app now because it's like my eyes are much worse. I'm a little bit slower, but because I used to write everything down, and now I figured out how to like these damn things. They are smarter than us, and they're all going to make us dumb eventually.
Yeah.
But guys, the Deal Machine is like, woo! I got to tell you, man, that is a game changer. I was a little bit like surprised in it, and I questioned it at first, but a lot of people don't know this. Like we spent 2 years using it in our business to make sure it worked before we would even like tell you guys about it. Because there's a lot of like BS products out there. You guys know a lot of the stuff's crap. So when you find the good stuff, you stick with it, and that's it. So what else is going on? What can I help you out with?
So we hopped on here not even 10 minutes ago. I made a call to a seller, and he accepted my offer, and we're kind of just stuck here, to be honest.
So tell me how you came about them and kind of the short notes on how the deal went down. How'd you find the lead?
So
2 days ago, driving for dollars.
Yeah, he actually came out of his house. I was meowing at his cat, and he came out, and I was just talking to him.
Why were you meowing at the cat?
Because we were looking at the house across the street, and then the cat was there. And I don't know.
Do you own a cat?
No.
How do you know how to meow at a cat?
I'm sorry?
How do you know how to meow at a cat?
I don't know. I was just like, meow.
It worked.
So I have a cat in my house, and I'm not really, I've never been a cat person. I have a dog too. I love my dog to death. And sometimes I bring him here to the studio, but he's a little bit difficult. He's big too, but like cats, man, woo, that's a whole nother world, buddy, dude. Like they'll tell you when they want to talk to you. And so anybody's a cat owner here, I'm like learning the dynamics of cats. They can be the most awesome pets in the world. And some other days it's like, get that thing out of my house. They're like, sometimes I go to pick it up and it just swipes me and blood's pouring down my arm. I'm like, what did I do? She's like, she doesn't want to be picked up right now. So I do the meow calling, like to try to trick her every now and I'm not very good at it. So I was seeing if you had any tips on it. Okay. So you meowed and you found a deal.
Yeah. He stepped out the door and was just talking to us and told us that he had a house right down the road, and we went and checked it out and the numbers worked out, and I just called him and shot him an offer, and he accepted, and he wants us to shoot over a proof of funds, which I already got our cash buyer to send it to us.
Yeah, check this out. A couple of days before, we were driving for dollars, not even around the neighborhood, but we're driving for dollars close by, and we ran into another investor, and we just reached out to him, and he's interested. So we're putting everything together.
That's awesome, dude. So, so you have it under contract, and now
we're just winging it. We're going as we go.
Okay.
So we want to use your contract, but I just wanted to ask you, like, what's the steps of that? Because he said to send the seller said to send him over the proof of funds,
which we're getting from that investor. He said he'll send it,
and then the contract as well. Is there anything else that we would need to send over?
A quick question before that: when we send, when we get a deal like that, before we talk or send the information or the address to anybody, we should have it under agreement, right? So they won't steal it from us.
It's. I mean, it's a little bit softer now, but that's a good rule because it's not. If you get burned, it's a win, and it'll usually be your biggest deal ever. So the trick here is you're going to send over funds. I get it. It's like your partner. Get that out of the way. Because what they're going to, so traditional real estate, they correlate the proof of funds to the contract. And if they don't match, they're going to start questioning you. So usually you get the proof of funds, you throw it out of the way first. Okay. Just if that's what you need to do and you don't think anyone's going to poach the deal from you and it's a deal, I'm assuming it. So if you do the proof of funds, then you do the contract. But if you send them together, it's typically a disaster. That's what realtors do. Okay. So wait a minute. John Smith sent the proof of funds and then it's like Piranha LLC buying it. What the hell's going on here? And then they'll go further. They'll start looking up your company and go, well, he doesn't own that company. What the hell's going on here? And you create confusion where it doesn't belong. Okay. So your explanation is like, listen, we work with multiple partners. Sometimes we keep them ourselves. It just depends on what we're going to do with the house and how much work it needs. Yep. So a lot of times when people go, well, I don't like an assignable contract. Number one, if they say that they're instructed by a realtor 100% or someone of a legal authority, most real estate contracts are assignable. So you're not doing anything off the cuff. Okay. My explanation on an assignable contract is sometimes I buy it in my company's name. Sometimes I buy it in my partner's name. Sometimes we have to switch it. It has no effect on your deal. You're getting your money one way or the other. So once they know, because everybody's in it, what's in it for me, right? If they think there's change or you scare them, then they're like, okay, I'm going to get screwed. You have to explain to them, I'm not here for you guys to write contracts and pull out. You can't fulfill every contract that just that's how humans work. But understanding if you send that proof of funds and the contract at the same time, you're going to create issues. So get the proof of funds like done out of the way.
All right. Okay. So we should take the risk and send them the address and all that. And
no, he's gonna send me the proof of funds without the address. I already explained. I said
it's just real simple.
Oh, they can send the proof of funds without the address.
Yeah, and then once you suffice that, then you can decide how you want to put the contract name in. As long as it's signable, you can sell it to any cash buyer you find.
Right.
But
and we
like,
can
you understand if you do a proof of funds and your company's contract, I assume you guys are doing it under an LLC or your personal name.
Yeah, my renovation LLC.
So you understand how you're going to create confusion with them if he gets those two at the same time. Traditional real estate does that. You do not want to even like pretend to be that type of person. Just shoot it over. I'll get the contract over, later today or tomorrow, depending on the urgency of the deal. It's just, by the way, most sellers, I'm just going to be honest, they don't ask for a proof of funds. If it's a good deal and you're okay with it, then do it. But just make sure you kind of rehearse your explanation, because this is where a lot of new wholesalers really like mess it up.
Okay, that's
because they're going to question you. And the problem is if they put you on the defensive, it's not a productive conversation. You have to have multiple conversations. After a few months, you'll figure this out with the greatest of ease. Here's the problem is I don't know your personality types, and to tell you word to word what to say, it's going to freak you out. Like you can't. You got to go with like human. He's worried that you are going to screw him over when they say that. Go, listen, don't worry. We're closing. It's just a matter of if I'm closing at my company or my partner's company. It just depends on what kind of work we need to do on the house. Yeah. Tell me, and then I go right to the house. I'm going to go right to the house and get off that contract as fast as I can, because I want to assure him I'm here to solve the problem that we talked about, buying your house. It's got issues. You want to know hassle sale. I get it. But understanding there are some issues with the house, and we have to send on how much work it needs and how much money we have to put in it, decide how we're going to fund this. Correct. You're getting your money. Don't worry about it. Once you do that, they usually go, okay, that's fine. If you don't have an answer and you go, I don't know, it's problematic. But this is why I tell you guys you need lots of volume, because a lot of people make this mistake off the bat. You only have to make it once and you won't do it again. So I'm glad you called, because this is an important part, and it's hard to put that in a course going, because in most of the time people are getting more prolific about asking for a proof of funds or a POF. So you just got to kind of overcome it. We teach you how to overcome it. Putting them simultaneous with the contract is challenging. So sometimes you give them the contract first and then they sign it, and then you wait a few days to do a POF when you're cash buyers. That's good. But do not send them the same day. It creates chaos and confusion.
Got you. So awesome. I think I'm going to send him over the contract. I wanted to ask.
No, we're sending the proof of funds today and then the agreement tomorrow.
However you want to do it. But you two need to have a strategy when you do this, and then you'll learn from it. And some people, they'll react strangely to, they're looking for your vote of like, what you're talking about and your confidence. And the problem when you're new to this, you guys are confident. You're trying to figure out wholesaling. And the idea is you want to learn and earn. Occasionally you're going to screw a deal up. Man, I screwed it up. I said the wrong thing. I'm so sorry. Zach screwed up a lot of deals when he started out with me. I knew it. I'm like, okay, it took me 7 years before I decided I can't do this every day the rest of my life. I was making tons of money and I was a control freak. And then I hired an acquisition manager and I almost had a heart attack because the guy couldn't close anything. And then I was spending so much time training, but I came to the realization if he could just be 60% as effective as me, this will get better. And so every time you hire someone, you typically on the sales side, you're going to go backwards before you go forwards, and it's painful. And we always want to make progress and better and better. So that you just learn as you go. And so let me ask you, how did you two, what's the correlation between, like, how do you guys know each other?
Well, that's a crazy story.
Give me the short one.
We met in jail. How did you guys
get together doing real estate, wholesaling specifically?
We met in jail.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. We both got a DUI, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm authentic here, and I'm like, so it's that's funny though. I mean, it's not
everything happens for a reason.
Everything.
I didn't crash. None of us crashed or anything. I just took a red light. I was coming on a Sunday from brunch, so I had a couple of drinks on me, and a cop asked me if I had drinks. I said yeah, and that was it.
I
don't regret it.
I'm not giving you an intervention. Like I'm not even. I'm the last guy who's going to give it to you. So it's.
I'm blessed that it happened because I met this guy. This guy is stepped up to the plate. Like when I met him, he was like, "Oh, I want you to be my mentor, teach me." So I sent him a couple of videos, thinking, whatever. He's 18, I'm 45, and he watched the videos. He asked me questions. He was interested, and here we are.
So that's funny because I'm 53 and my son's 23, and it's like so I had him when I was 30, and it's just funny because I had to learn to open up and listen to a younger generation because we don't always have it right when we're like, the wisdom I have is great, but if you can bring back like my son's like technology and
Yep.
like the way he connects and talks to people. It's different and it's unique. I've always been a talker. I always thought like, why do I talk so much? And I had ADHD. I'm just like, every teacher said, you're going to get killed on a job. And you know what? After 15 years, I give them all the credit in the world. I was never meant to have a job. I'm a nightmare to hire me. And by the way, I worked for the same company for 12 years. I gave them my all. And I just said, man, I'm never going to get ahead doing this. And that's when I got excited and I started figuring it out. And I just went out to go buy regular real estate to retire me in 10 years. And I go, man, there's no way this is going to work because tenants are a nightmare. And that's how I discovered wholesaling. And then I just went, I go, who wants a couple $100? Well, it's not passive income, dude. I have rental properties. It's the farthest thing from passive you'll ever do. I have managers and I have to give them surprise visits. I constantly ask them for statements and I'm constantly hiring and firing. I don't let anybody lay down on their laurels. Otherwise your asset will fall to crap. So I commend you guys. It's a great story, man. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it had a positive outcome. Yeah. So I love it. So
and blessed, nobody got hurt, just minor stuff,
Change me for the better.
Hey, listen, everybody, you're one of the few people that come out with like a better idea out of that. So a lot of people, repeat it over and over and they're doomed to their mistakes. So I love it because everything we do on this channel is like extremely authentic. Like that's what I'm up, like that's what we're about. So I have whatever. Like I think that is probably the number one reason people get like arrested. Am I correct? Like a DUI is probably the most common thing in the United States.
Yep. Yeah.
And
all my friends have gotten one.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Miami, so I partied all the time. So I made
there
it
you go.
Far.
So you know that so you guys are in what, PA or
no? In Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been here. He's a local. I've been here 9 years. I'm originally from Miami. My number is still 305.
Awesome. The original. What's it? It's 305, right? Like that.
305. Mr. Worldwide.
So Rick, with you guys' free contract, is there anything that I'm gonna have to change it up a little bit for it to work?
No, it's really straightforward. Like you guys got to understand, every contract accomplishes the same thing. It's just who wants to shove all the words in there to protect the lawyers, the realtors. Like I'm going to warn you right now, if people try to chop your contract to the T, you have a difficult seller. I'm sorry. If you want to sell the property, this vehicle will deliver it. So in your state, I forget, do you need an attorney to close?
Yeah, closing attorney.
Okay. So in Florida's different. So I don't really know Atlanta. Actually, I have a few properties over there, but you need to understand the mechanics of it. So the best thing to do is review the contract with the title company and get their opinion, or like a lawyer. The last thing you want to do is have your seller give it to their lawyer for their opinion because they'll eat you alive. It could be the most perfect contract. It's ego thing with lawyers. This is wrong. 50% of lawyers are wrong every day, right? Someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. That's how the law works. So the contracts suffice, dude. I've used it over 20 years.
Awesome.
And I'm not a lawyer. I sit with a lawyer and go, hey. So what I do is first I review it with the title company because they're the ones that are going to ultimately yay or nay it because either they're going to insure title or not. That's going to allow you to move forward with the transaction. And number two is if there's something major in there that violates a state statute, which is a possibility because it's hard to satisfy all states, they'll tell you just fix it. You get it done once. So anything you do in Georgia, you're good to go. And every time you go to another state, go, hey, is this going to be okay? We constantly have to do this with virtual markets, and I hate it. But I will tell you guys, when you sit there, if you let a seller change one or two things, it will never stop. You lose control of the transaction to go, listen, when they go, well, I need this change. And I just had a deal where I was giving the guy a $10,000 deposit. It's a commercial deal. Don't panic, okay? And he got in a pissing match with me over the deposit on a deal that was going to close in 3 weeks. It was like an $800,000 deal. And instead of the $10,000, he wanted $30,000. I go, what do you care? Like, it's stupid. And it just kept going on. And I just lost it, man. And we found out some other things about the property. I go, that's fine. I go, you have just asked. Like, if you let them push you too much, they're going to drive you all the way to the closing. So I'm just telling you, when sellers start to push, you got to start questioning the motivation. And then 9 times out of 10, it's either a lawyer, a neighbor, or a realtor leaning in their ear. And whenever they do that, just go like this. I thought you wanted to sell the property. I thought this was important. Yeah. You told me the property's driving you nuts. I'm trying to get done. Why are we focusing focusing on a deposit. I'm trying to get you all the cash to close it. If I leave you $100 or $1,000, you're not getting the money. It goes to a title company. I want to get it done and just say, listen, if I gave you $1,000, like maybe we need to go back and relook at the price. Like I do that all the time with people. Like if they focus on the deposit, that has no bearing on the transaction. It means they don't trust you. And you have to identify that and go back to them. What is it that's making you uncomfortable? Guys, for probably the first 5 years, I don't think I ever left a deposit. Very rarely. Now, I had an advantage back then because it wasn't really known. But the key component is all motivated sellers, they do not focus on deposit. They just know do you know you don't technically even need a deposit on most contractual law? Like it's not part of the contract. People do it all the time with zero deposit. So when people go, the thing is, it's a trust thing and they don't take you seriously. So we go, okay, we're gonna have to start doing $10. I'm like, $10? How the hell am I'm not writing a check for $10. And then we used to take a $10 bill and take a picture of it with the serial number, and that would act as our deposit. And the lawyer goes, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Just close the deal. Who cares? You technically don't need the deposit. And so just so you know, the deposit's a mental block in your own head. When I have a smoking deal, like they're giving me something 50 cents on the dollar, they ask for $1,000, I just give them $1,000. Like the deposit's not your money. And if you're going to sign it, you can get your deposit replaced in as little as 7 days. So when you do your assignment of contract, you get your deposit back immediately because you are selling your contract. So you need to be refunded your deposit amount. Then they take over from there. Do you understand that? If I have a crappy deal, it's like questionable and I know I have to get a price reduction, but it's a vacant house and I know it needs to be sold, I'll give you a $50 deposit, $100. I'm not going to give you much more because I don't want to be tied up like with all your shenanigans, right?
Okay, so
low deposits when you are not, first of all, low deposits when you don't have a lot of money. 2, low deposits on very shaky deals that you're very concerned about. Like you think it's 50-50 at best. And you got to be back the entire time. When someone goes, listen, I won't do this deal unless you give me $1,000, but they're giving you 50 cents on the dollar, some crazy number. Just stop fighting with people. Like go find a way to go get $1,000 because you're getting it back in probably 5 days. It's not a big deal because the deposit is not the sale price. So many people try to negotiate the deposit. It's a joke. Like deposit's nothing. Did you know at one point I bought an entire, I outfitted a custom house I had built for my family. The entire roof was the entire Tesla system. I did the solar tiles. I did the batteries, the whole, a crazy amount. It was like $140,000. Do you know how much they asked for a deposit from me? They did all the planning, the permits and everything. It took 1.5 years. You know how much I gave it? About $100.
I was going to say 500.
$100. Like, are you kidding me? You're going to do all this for $100? And then they told me it's refundable if I don't want to move forward because they believe so much in their product. Now I think it's 500 or 1,000. You used to be able to do this with a Tesla car. And some people made a lot of money doing this because the pandemic caused the prices to go through the roof. And people were like, 5 cars. You could tie up 5 cars for $100. You could use different names. They didn't figure out what you're doing. I'm just like, guys, a deposit is a mental thing. It's a trust issue. So when they're fighting you on it, refocus them and go, hey, what's the real issue? Do you not trust me or what's going on? It's never the money with the deposit. If you have a final sale price, that's it. The deposit is irrelevant. Some believe the deposit shows your commitment.
Exactly. That's what I've heard.
Sometimes it's just psychological and you figure it out. So we recommend between $100 and $500. Like occasionally I'll do 1,000, but I've had a deal where I've given a $10,000 deposit on a single family home, but I'm buying it 30 cents on the dollar. I'm like, okay, why don't we just send you all the money? You're like, right. If they run the title, I'll fund it tomorrow because I know I'm going to make a ridiculous return. And that's what you have to understand the most. So what else?
I think my last question is on the contract that you provide the contract that we give to the seller, have the seller sign, and then you also provide the contract that we have the buyer sign, correct?
You mean the assignment contract?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here's the deal on assignment contract. Do not change it. I'm just going to forewarn you. You cannot change that assignment contract because it's going to put you in a very precarious situation. It's set for stone. It's like, so if you have to negotiate your fee and stuff, that's all it. But just try to stick to, guys. Motivated sellers do not sit there and pick contracts apart. Like retail people do that. Like I've given people retail for their house on personal transactions and they just pick it apart. It's just in their nature. Like it's like a Karen. It's like, the deposit needs to be 10,000, not 7,500. What's the big deal? Like it's such a minor amount. Is that going to stop you from doing the deal? And so I do have an issue when I'm doing a big purchase and somebody wants to sit there and focus on the deposit. It means they're going to be difficult with me for the rest of my life. And the person I was buying the house, they were doing a note for a couple $100,000. We were putting over $500,000 and he just wanted to pick the deposit apart. I go, man, I don't want this man. He's going to drive my employees nuts. And that's where I says, hey, so you have to understand, sometimes you hit a wall. And the problem is if you keep applying to motivated sellers, you're going to have to do it all the way to the closing table. So it's okay to go, listen, I'm sorry, I can't do that. This is the offer. We think it's fair. You said you want to get the house sold. Let's focus on getting this done. Let's not pick on the little things that really not going to have any bearing on the final outcome of the transaction, and try to do the right thing. But guys, if you have an iffy deal, don't push it. Do a 0 or a very tiny deposit and tell them, listen, I got reservations. I'm not sure what you say is adding up. I'm going to have to go in and really inspect it. Maybe you're inspecting it. Maybe your partner's a contract. And he goes, you told me the roof's good, but like the last permit was 18 years ago and there's stains on the ceiling. So that's a $20,000 job, but I got to take that price off if I bring somebody out there and it's not good. I know it's not good. I know I'm going to try to go for the reduction, but the house is vacant and it's a perfect opportunity for wholesaling. I will write the contract, but I'm going to let the seller know, like, I'm not happy about the price and we're going to really pick it apart. And if your stuff doesn't match up what it says, I'm going in for an instant reduction. Small deposits, because that way you don't waste a lot of time. I always have a dozen of those contracts out because very few of them like go forward. But eventually I know they have to sell. And if they know that like I'm a legitimate buyer, eventually they come to their senses and they sell it to me for the right price. So nice. I like motivated houses. Sometimes motivated houses have unmotivated sellers and it's frustrating to me. Mm-hmm. Like you see people all the time with like trashed house stuff. Like I go, you don't even understand what you're like. You're asking retail and you need $100,000 worth of work on your house. Like,
yep. Yeah. We had a lady with that same situation.
Yeah. The market is so. Instead of you beating your head against the door, either you try the contract, you try to convince them with a third party, a contractor or an inspector, or you get out of the contract, you wish them the best, go, listen, if something doesn't work out, give me a call back. I'm still interested, but I think we need to make some changes on the price. You have to let them take it to the market and the market will discipline them. It will. It'll be brutal, man. And especially if you give it to a realtor and you'll get eaten alive, man. I've done picture perfect properties when I used to do fix and flip, and dude, they come in with like a white glove, like there's a drop of paint here. And then you clip it off with your fingernail. Like, what else you got? There's a dent in the drywall. Okay, I'll have my handyman fix it. It's like, find the major stuff and let's move on with her life. So just understand when it comes to your contract will suffice them buying the you buying the property, them getting funded, and you getting the end buyer, the cash buyer, getting the title insurance they need. You can do it in 1 page. Ours is 1.5, I think 2 pages. Or like a Florida realtor contract is now 21 pages. It does the exact same.
Save a tree.
And by the way, all they do is read the first 2 pages and the last. Nobody reads the middle anymore. It's all cookie cut boilerplate. And to be honest with you, it's all about like what happens if the deal doesn't work out, who gets sued. And the reality on a in Florida, we call it a FAR bar contract. You have to go to mediation for like 3 months before you can even consider going to court. Our contracts don't do any of that stuff. Our contracts basically say, if the deal doesn't work out, you keep the deposit for damages. That's it. You move on. It really protects you. If you start changing the contract, you start to go on your own risk. I'm not a lawyer. I tell you, every one of you guys got to run it by a title and a lawyer to make sure you're doing it. But for the most part, sellers listen to your verbal agreement much more than they do the writing. And if they don't match up, then the pain comes. If you lie to people, like it's a problem. So whatever you say verbally, make sure it's in your paperwork. And that's how you protect yourself. That's how you do it. And that's how a seller is going to hold you accountable. That's how your title company is going to hold you accountable. And the minute the seller starts to change their terms, you got to go, wait a minute, we had an agreement. And if they're confused, then you can go over the paperwork. This is what we agreed to. And they'll say, no, you did this. I've had an agreement signed and they go, I didn't know I had to move out in 30 days. I'm like, and then I have to work through them and get it through it. So remember, from the contract to the end, it's an entire babysitting process. Some need more babysitting than others. You have to determine which ones need that. So you guys are well on your way. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to make mistakes along the way. It's just don't beat yourself up about it. You're alive. You're above earth. You're free. Try to rectify it. And sometimes deals fall apart. Just go find another one.
Yeah, trust the process. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah. So like I lose deals all the time, guys. So like it's just some deals just aren't meant to be. And sometimes when a deal doesn't work out, people are doing you a huge favor. I had a deal. Quick story. I'll let you go.
Yeah, no problem.
I had a deal that I was going to sell retail because it was a really ugly, odd-looking house that had mold in it. So I had a company come in and remediate it. I got this from an expired listing. The realtor's like, I can't sell it. I'm like, oh, well, obviously, you need to wholesale it. So I bought it. They left a huge margin in it for me. And then I tried to retail it. I couldn't sell it. Like they go, listen, to do it correctly, you have to break the whole thing down. You got to redo the roof. I'm like, ugh, crap. So I wind up wholesaling it. I took a quick 10 grand and moved on with my life. Okay. The guy I sold it to, he goes, oh, I'm going to sell it for like retail, the whole lot. I go, listen, my title company made him sell a disclosure. These are the facts of the house. It's got issues. You had to pull the trusses and the roof off. So you appreciate what that takes.
Nope.
Because the guy built the house by hand.
By hand?
Yeah, he built the house. He took like 4 years. He's like an old schooler back in the 70s. And it looks like a military base, a small, like it's very ugly. There's no architectural. And then here's the really cool part is he took 6 months, fixed it up. He did it, but he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And then he charged a huge premium. He made like $130,000 profit. Well, the house got flooded. Everything got ruined. He did beautiful fixtures, but he didn't fix how all the moisture was coming in. So they filed a lawsuit. They called me. They go, Mr. Ginn, we need to bring you in for a deposition. I go, okay, I sold it. So I pulled out all my documents. I go, listen, I wholesaled it cash. I disclosed the problem. And they go, he said you never said that. I go, the document. They deposed the title company agent. She's like, yeah, we knew it. He tried it. And I go, listen, I knew it was a problem. We even marked it in MLS. He sold it. He got taken down for the whole thing. All damages. The seller got all their money back. And what happens is title insurance now, they sued him for fraud and they go after him. It's civil, but they put a judgment against him, and it was crazy. And when you do stuff like that, it's insane. But what happened is I had a problem that I couldn't solve, but I solved it as a wholesaler. Everyone's told me, he goes, man, you make 150 grand. I go, I don't know, man. Like they can't solve this problem. And so my guy tried it. He goes, I've tried everything. We can't do it. So we tried selling it, closing it on MLS. Like, no. Everyone's like, you got to fix it. And so I gave it away. And the guy goes, screw that. I'll just fix it myself. And he did it. He sold it for retail, beautiful furnishings, everything. But he didn't put like the 80 grand where it was supposed to go. He put it all in cosmetics and it all got flooded out. And can you imagine the homeowner? And for that reason, it's like sometimes, guys, you got to take projects that don't work as a wholesaler and go, listen, I'm going to sell it to you, but here's the problem with it. I'm going to make some money, but like you're on the hook after that. So the beauty of real estate, once you sell it, you're done. So it's so funny. Like, I don't even know how I got to telling you that story. I just thought it was, I've seen everything. Like you have to be brutally honest in this business, because if you think you're going to take a shortcut to make a bunch of money, I promise you it will come up, blow up in your face. And I had to learn a lot of lessons when I was young. I got sued multiple times for stupid stuff. And I'm like, no one's ever going to say anything. And then it cost me 3 times the amount with the attorney. So whenever your gut feeling feels like something's wrong, just go raise your hand, talk, especially amongst yourselves, and go, listen, there's something wrong. And Zach's really good. He'll tell me, because man, there's something wrong. We've had people show up to closings completely like on something. Like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like,
we're celebrating.
So we learned. So we had to take the same lady to a closing 4 times, and we learned. We had to do the closing at 8:00 in the morning because like the bottle started at like 9. We could figure it out. I go, we got to catch her right. But her true intention was to sell the house. Now I'm not. And then I got questioned by the title company. Is she of sound mind? I go, dude, I don't even know if I'm of sound mind sometimes. Like, I go, she's sound mind. She wants to sell the house. You've authorized her identity. She's sober. Let's move forward. And she wanted to sell it. Sometimes people have problems. I can't fix it for you. I can only fix your symptom, which is the problem real estate. And that's what you guys have to focus on. Dude, it's a fun journey. I love wholesaling. There's so many things you can do. And you guys are on your way. So just keep doing it. You know where to connect with us. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Rick.
Have a good one, guys. See ya.